And really what I think a brand oftentimes forgets is that there is no race, really. It is a matter of recognizing you're only really in competition with yourself. What are you doing as a brand that is elevating or better or different than what you were doing? Does it still serve you the same way today?
Join me for a conversation with Somo Cowork member Nicole Rogers, founder of GriffJack, as she shares her expertise and insights on building authentic brands, adapting with purpose, leading with intention, and how working at Somo has brought structure, connection, and fresh energy into her daily routine. All right, so hello and welcome to the Somo Cowork Member Spotlight. We're with Nicole Rogers. She's the founder of GriffJack, a marketing consultancy where she draws on over 2 decades of experience to help founders, CMOs, and leadership teams in the food and beverage and agriculture industries. So, Nicole, we are so excited to have you here today. And I'd love to start with just a small joy. What's something that's been bringing you joy and keeping you grounded at this time?
I will say that what's bringing me joy, which I don't know that there's a lot of other Sonoma Coast folks that will say this, but I love that it's so mild this summer and that the temperatures are so cool. I love the marine layer that comes in the evenings. I love this cool air. I love it so much. I moved here 3 years ago from the Sacramento Valley, and it's a whole lot hotter there. And so this feels like a treat. So I've been loving being outdoors and taking my dog out and just soaking in all that beautiful, cool air. That really does give me a lot of joy, the present moment.
Amazing. I'm so glad you're enjoying that, getting out with your dogs, and we're happy to have you in the Sonoma area. So can you give us a quick introduction as to who you are, what you do, and your work for over 2 decades of experience in this marketing food and beverage field?
So I have kind of 2 prongs to my life. One side is GriffJack, which is a marketing consultancy. I created that about 5 years ago. And I work with food, beverage, lifestyle, and art-focused brands and provide brand strategy where I'm able to also bring in some talented team members on that particular project, whether it's through graphic design or photography or copywriting. And we kind of joke about it being the Hollywood model. We come together on a project or on a campaign, work with clients, help them feel as though they've got a little bit of a better footing on how to tell their brand story, and then end the campaign or project and see them on the next round. And then the other prong of my life is I'm a partner in a food pantry staple brand called True Origin Foods. And so think the rice, beans, popcorn space. And that is with a couple of farmers who are just north of Sacramento. I've been doing rice farming for about 5 or so generations. And so we provide beautiful, organic, artisanal rice, beans, and popcorn.
It makes me hungry just hearing all this work. So what got you into all this? It's a very specific niche and field. What got you into food?
I'm a good eater. I would say that it really happened. I mean, there's so many people who are like, oh, I landed in this place by accident, but it really is true. I kind of landed in this space by accident. I left college with this idea of going into communications and public relations, and I thought I would be following all of my friends in the tech space and make $1 bajillion in tech, because why wouldn't I? And then that was about 3 months before 9/11.
Oh, wow.
And so I ended up finding work in food and hospitality on the marketing and storytelling side as a junior staffer working in agencies. And I didn't realize how much consumer storytelling actually would resonate with me. I thought for sure as a tech nerd person, I was going to be in that tech space. And so it was by accident. I had a leader of an agency who was like, I think you'd be good at this, so try it. And so I started writing about wine, and whatever person decided writing about wine for a 21-year-old, not a good idea. But I learned a lot, and I learned what not to say. And so it was really finding the right people at the right time, even if I didn't know it. And that's how I landed in this space, is that somebody somewhere along the lines would look at me and go, you might be good at this, so do this other thing. And each step brought me closer to what I'm doing now.
I think that's such a beautiful nod to, we try to figure everything out and have a full plan. And of course, it's good to have an idea of what to do, but you can't guarantee. Life brings you things that you wouldn't even know or expect. And then,
oh, no. And I think that is such an important piece for, I think, any professional or really anyone to remember, in that I absolutely wish I could go back in time and hug that 22-year-old Nicole who was just so desperate to I'm supposed to have the answers, and I'm supposed to figure this out, and aren't I supposed to be doing X? And as a middle-aged Nicole, it is a whole other story where I'm really comfortable being like, I don't actually know, but I'm going to figure this out, or I'm going to try this other thing. And so it's having the wisdom now to realize that I got lucky before, and now I try and seek out some of that luck and finding really smart people to help kind of guide me to whatever my next step is.
That's amazing. It sounds like you've really curated a team, and I loved how you said the Hollywood approach, you come together. So you've said you love the full scope of campaign building and not just the polished social media or the last minute push, but what do you think most brands are missing or maybe overlooking when it comes to telling a cohesive story?
I think often with brands, they are driven by anxiety or panic. And so often brands will think, oh my gosh, I need to have this super clever social post. And they think of these things in very small, siloed or pinhole activities where they see a competitor who's done one thing quite well and they hone in on, I must be just like that. Or I need this one thing and that is my silver bullet or the magic sauce. And really what I think a brand oftentimes forgets is that there is no race, really. It is a matter of recognizing you're only really in competition with yourself. So when you are so strong in who you are strong in your own integrity. I realize how overused the word authentic is, but when you're just honest about who and what you are as a brand, what you value, and you make little apology for not being all things to all people, that really becomes the start of a good campaign, because then you can decide, what is my voice really? What am I really wanting to share? What am I really offering that's different? As opposed to, I need a really funny social post and this is going to go viral because we all time travel to 2012 when that happens. So it's really, I think, for brands to take a breath, and it feels scary. It feels really scary for brands to think, so I don't have to be chasing every shiny thing. And it's like, we really don't. You need to chase the right shiny thing.
I loved what you said. You are only in competition with yourself. That's a huge reframe for probably so many businesses to hear that. And what kind of response do you get when you share that feedback? Does it take a while for brands to adopt, or what's the changes and transformation with that?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great question. And I think that the resistance sometimes that comes with that, because it sounds so simple, right? It's like someone telling an upset person to calm down. You're like, oh, really? That's what we should do? So it's more about recognizing that there's a place to get confident and comfortable in who you are without feeling as though you're always defining yourself in contrast to something or someone else. And I think that goes for a personal brand or a business brand. But when I've worked with other food brands, and especially some brands that are family owned, there's a lot of layers that are put into that brand story or how that brand came to be, and they're really invested emotionally. So when you're asking what's the reception like, it usually still met with some level of anxiety. I mean, I'm, like I said before, like middle-aged Nicole is still anxious about, am I doing the right thing? And I think that keeps us curious. It keeps us humble if we can keep it in perspective. But yeah, if we're not in competition with others, and I realize, yes, you're always going to be in competition. If it's a food brand and you want to be in retail, you've got 4 feet of shelf space that you hope someone in a split second, as they're pushing their cart down an aisle, is going to choose your item off the shelf over the one right next to you. That's probably saying the same kinds of things you are. So it's figuring out what it is that is truly different or is truly special, or who your people are, and being able to speak to them in a way that you don't have to be apologetic for, or you don't feel as though you have to steal someone else's.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I feel like it's very refreshing, and just we're all trying to follow these trends or do the same things. And so I think that's just such a beautiful, almost therapeutic, I'd imagine, for the brands to be
I have had a friend make a joke saying what I do offer is like brand therapy. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. And sometimes we need that. And so it sounds like sustainability is also a very big value at the core of both the work that you do with the True Origin and with GriffJack. And so what does that look like to live your values as a brand?
I think it is a couple of things, and it's not one definition forever and ever the exact same way. Because when we talk about how sustainable is this? It's how long can you be doing this business? How sustainable is producing this product or this item? In the way that you're doing it now, what is the long-term impact or possibility of it? So there's lots of ways to define how sustainable something is. But I think about the values of sustainability or the values of a brand and being true to them. It's having those moments of hard self-reflection. And I do think it's completely okay for brands to 5 years in in or 10 years in or whatever have you, decide that they need to be able to reflect, like, are they competitive enough in the market? And I know how I just said before, like, really you're only in competition with yourself. But yes, what are you doing as a brand that is elevating or better or different than what you were doing? How does it compare with what else is happening on the shelf? And what you believed yesterday or the way you're operating business yesterday, does it still serve you the same way today? Can you look in your future and think, will this actually still serve me XYZ months, years, quarters, whatever the measurements are down the road? And I know it's hard. It's not like I have a crystal ball, but I do think it is important for brands to be willing to self-reflect, because the way that you do business today may not be the way you do business in 5 years. And I feel like that is evident even within True Origin, for us to be thinking through who's growing what. There's loads of things that impact a business. Everything from Mother Nature, I should say an ag business especially. Mother Nature, you've got, you know, sun and rain. Those are kind of important things. But it also includes like the consumer's desire for your product, how trendy any one particular thing is and how much that influences purchasing power, our current state of our consumer confidence in purchasing, or our current, you know, national and global economy. Yeah. Those things all very much influence how business is done. And so to be sustainable, in my opinion, requires regular, consistent self-evaluation that is always being evaluated against your core of who you are. Are you still providing the truth and the honesty of the brand that you set out to? It may not be tactically exactly how you were doing it 5 years ago, but it's still honoring who you are today.
Thank you for that answer. That's very well thought out. And it's so true. There's not a one size fits all. And even what works for you one day might not be the same thing down the road.
I think it's hard.
Adaptable.
Absolutely. I think it's hard for brands to give themselves permission that change is necessary, but it has to be through this lens of, is this serving the brand? And is this still honoring the intention of which we started? Yeah. There's a lot of, like, especially within food brands, a lot of kind of not gossip, but just like unrest when it comes to small brands that get bought by a big dog. And so there'll be, you know, videos on TikTok or whatever where folks are like, yeah, but did you know this brand is owned by Unilever, or this brand is owned by General Mills? And it's as if by the smaller, more artisanal or kind of niche brand getting picked up by something big somehow devalues it. And it's not always the case. But I think that if we don't have these hard rules, or things are very like strict and binary of like you can only do business in this one way forever, that helps you be a little more nimble when you're like, okay, this is how I need to be doing business so that it's in honor of why I do business, and this is how it changes because the environment around me has changed.
Now that I hear that, I do sometimes think about if a company's been bought out by a bigger brand and it was one that I really liked, I'm like, oh, is the quality different? Is it not as good anymore? Like, what does that mean? And so what does that mean?
I just don't think there's a one-size-fits-all answer for that.
True.
I do think that there's plenty of stories, right, where a small cereal brand gets bought by a big dog and the former CEO is left to go on to their next adventure. And then there's a dip in sales once it's been bought by the larger brand, and the larger brand doesn't know quite what to do. So they bring that old CEO and that old founder back. There's lots of those like kind of anecdotal examples of how big brands still want to try and create this space for autonomy with these smaller brands. But I just don't think any two acquisitions are the same, to be totally fair. I do think, though, that if it is a brand's goal to sell, to be acquired, there is a place to know who you are so firmly. And that it's very easy to get enticed by the big dollar sale. I mean, who wouldn't? Who's like, no, I don't need $10 million. That's fine. I think it's important as your leadership team that everyone is really in sync around what is the most important thing for us. What does this mean for the brand? If we were to experience this acquisition, what does this mean for us? How long would we want to stay? How do we maintain the integrity? And there's just no clear-cut answer for every brand. It's really unique for each person.
That's a great answer. Thank you. And with all this work you do, I'd imagine there's been a lot of lessons or roadblocks to overcome along the way. So what's something that you've learned through your own experience that's really shaped how you work or live today?
So I think a couple of things. While a lot of my client work is very specific in terms of branding or brand strategy, another area of services I've been providing has been team building and being able to coach marketing teams, maybe a smaller brand or even mid-size that have had a tough time having smart or sticky marketing leadership. I'll be brought in to help really guide a team or help better structure who the team players are, what their roles are, how they're best being used. And I think some of the biggest lessons I've had through this is you really are only as good as the people you hire.
Oh, wow.
And I think that also, coupled with that, you as a manager or as a people leader have to be really wise on how not to get burnt out. And I think that's this very catchy, trendy conversation around burnout or around this return to the office versus working from home. And again, I don't think there is some magical formula to avoid burnout or do these things and working from home will be perfect, or do these things and working from the office will be perfect. But I do think being a leader requires, again, a whole lot of self-awareness. Being able to teach and coach other people requires a lot of self-awareness around your own anxieties, your own projections, your own weaknesses, and where it's easy to burn out. I think I had some of the hardest lessons learned probably in the last 10 plus years of my career, where as a manager, I wanted to protect my team. I wanted to create the softest landing for them always. I wanted to protect them from any negative conversations happening from other parts of leadership, and it didn't serve them. It burned me out. And when the time came for me to leave or the situation changed, they were then left stunned because they had been shielded so much from some of the politics or the garbage. So I think realizing how to hire really good people, train them in a way that they are fortified and that they are growing and kind of, you're not working yourself out of a job, but you're kind of working yourself out of a job. Like you should be surrounded by people that are so, so good and that you also don't burn out through trying to protect them.
Wow. What would be a factor to consider with those kinds of hiring decisions? Or, I mean, granted, every job is going to have its own unique needs, but
for sure,
is there something that helps or something you look for?
I think that when I've been able to help sit in interviews, even when I'm helping with clients interview or fill roles, it is looking, yes, the cultural fit sounds so cliche, but you really are looking at like the potential chemistry. And I will say I've watched clients just get burned by really good interviews. Like they'll have candidates who are great interviewers and they're kind of garbage in performance. And when I say garbage in performance, I mean that like they aren't paying attention, that they are kind of stoked about having a new job title and kind of fancy perks, and they're not interested in doing some of the deep work of understanding the why or the research or even the people they've been hired to lead. And so I think that hiring or looking for the right kind of hires, culture and chemistry is paramount. I also tend to be a believer of not hiring people just like me. And so if there's going to be a team that I get to help influence, I'm really looking for big differences of personality, of skill set, of there's still a degree of compatibility, but I don't recommend it to be I need a team of Nicoles. Trust me, one of me is enough. But I do think having a team of folks that have real complementary skills to things that I know are my weaknesses make for better teams. And that's what I coach clients through when they're hiring, is recognizing like, okay, you are the kind of leader who is a visionary and you absolutely despise processes and you are a big thinker, you like your updates, you don't want to have details. Then you need details everywhere around you. Or you need someone who's brilliant on building policies everywhere around you. But having folks that are big visionary thinkers or folks who like to have just the highlights of something, and if you have an entire team like that, nothing is actually going to get done.
That all makes so much sense, and it's such a great way to look at it, just kind of diversifying skills and assets and what you're able to bring to the table. And what is something you're working on right now that's really energizing you or feeling really meaningful?
So I am really excited about the art community in Sonoma County. I had no idea moving here how rich the community art scene really was, and the depth of professional artists that exist up and down the county. And so because yes, my husband is a fine artist and he is an oil painter, I've been able to be in these conversations and in these circles with other artists. And so the things that are really lighting me up is being able to better support other artists in the area and really help find ways to market them. And I know how kind of trite that sounds, but so many artists are so brilliant and are so talented, and they are absolutely terrible at telling their own story. I used to make the joke about farmers where I would say like, oh, if you find me a farmer who says they're a good marketer, I'm going to find you a liar. I kind of feel that way about artists in a lot of ways. They really struggle with their own storytelling, their own marketing. They're so hungry to share their heart and their work. And it's such a vulnerable space to be creating and to share what you've created that there's really a gap. Joke with another spouse of an artist who we were saying like, yeah, every time their partner is producing something, they're like, yeah, it's okay, but I mean, I kind of hate it, or well, yeah, I would do this differently. And you're like, please stop talking garbage about a thing that someone's going to love. And so I am really lit up right now by helping elevate the conversations, inviting more people to experience various levels of fine art, various levels of artistic expression, and just being a participant in this community. There's so many folks who are doing such good things and creating such a beautiful community that it's been a privilege to even just be on the periphery.
That's such a cool way to support your own partner and just the work that he's doing as well. Now I just have a few questions that are a little more sort of work and co-work based. This is a co-working space. So what does a great day of work look or feel like for you?
I think a great day of work for me is starting my day at home fairly early and having quiet space at home. I do really like to have a home gym and be working out at home and have my kind of physical exertion in the morning, and then be able to come into Somo midday, and I'll be here usually until early evening. I really like having kind of this block of time, being able to come in. I bring my dog. She's amazing. Everybody's been really nice to her.
She's adorable.
I mean, I think she's perfect. And so she's been an awesome little office friend. But yeah, I think having my morning at home, having this balance where my husband gets to go to his studio and he gets to be Dan Rowe Art and have that space separate from our home. And then I get to have kind of a quiet space at home, come to Somo, and GriffJack gets to exist here. And that feels like a much more peaceful separation of home and work.
Yeah, it's nice to have that balance. And that's why so many people do come here, is because just being at home, it's very isolating. So.
Oh, it's very isolating. Absolutely. I really needed the energy. I have a friend who makes a joke that I'm very good at parallel play. And so I also really enjoy a silent book club. She was like, you work so great while others are working near you. And I do. And so I really like the energy of being in a space where there's other people. So I have this kind of ideal day of early at home, kind of quiet time for managing my own personal life, coming into Somo, having my afternoon, early evenings, and then getting into my, heading home, hitting Pen Grove Market, grabbing a snack or their Friday dinner, which I'm absolutely doing tomorrow. And then having my home be my home. And I'm not thinking about work and the load of laundry that needs to swap, or I'm not thinking about work and I need to go walk my dog, or I'm thinking about work and I have these other things happening at the house. It really does give me a place to have differentiation.
And how has being a part of Somo Cowork impacted your work and your day-to-day life since joining?
I am so grateful for it. I'm grateful for the people I get to meet and that I get to have this community that feels very built in. It's like I didn't have to work for it. It was a place that was just very easy to find my own groove in, and everyone's just been really friendly and professional and polite. I really appreciate just how kind everyone is and respectful everyone is about different workspaces, temperaments, etc. And I think that Somo has allowed for me to create some open spaces in my brain. So like I was saying before, I get to have a little bit of my time at home, come in for work, and I then have my evenings. It's been lovely in that respect that Somo has allowed for me to carve this space out, and this is where I get to think about work instead of it consuming me.
Well, we are so thrilled to have you here, and I'm so glad that it's been such a positive impact in your days, in your life. And are there any wellness tools or routines or maybe any Somo amenities that you've integrated into your workday?
I absolutely love how walkable the space is around this building. So this building actually is kind of warm to my heart. I'm a HP daughter. My dad was a lifer at Hewlett-Packard, and in a past life, this campus was Hewlett-Packard. And so I love that I get to walk around, and I usually call my dad while I'm on my walk and chat with him while I'm walking my dog, because I get to have a break. Like I said, I get to come into Somo, have a few hours of some heads down time, and then get to walk the neighborhood with my dog. And I love that. And so I think that having the walkability is really important. I also really am grateful for delicious coffee and delicious snacks and the thoughtfulness everyone has around gluten-free food. That for like the Wednesday waffles and things, there's almost always thinking about dietary options. And as a gluten-free person, I'm very, very appreciative.
Well, we are so happy to have those days. And yes, we want to make sure everyone's included to the best that we can. We want to make sure we provide all the options.
Yeah, it's awesome. And it's like so easy. It doesn't feel as though you're having to make all of these extra concessions.
Oh, good. I'm so glad you've been enjoying that and how special that you get to be in this space where your dad actually was as well.
Oh, I love it.
Wild.
Yeah, it makes me really happy.
Well, finally, thank you so much for your time today. It's been amazing to get to chat with you and learn a little bit more about you. And I know so many people are going to be probably very excited to work with you or hear more about what you do. So where can people find you or support your work?
Oh, thank you very much for just inviting me to be part of your launch of the podcast experience. I think this is a really great tool for folks to have some context of who's here at Somo. And also, I'm just very grateful that I got to be able to talk about some of the work that I do and things that make me excited about my work in general. Folks can find me at GriffJack.com. That's GriffJack.com. And GriffJack is actually the two nicknames of my dad and my granddad. So my maiden name is Griffith, and everyone calls my dad Griff. And my granddad, everyone called him Jack. And so I named the business GriffJack after two very good problem-solving people. So yeah, you can find me at griffjack.com. And I am more of a social creeper and lurker than I am a social poster. But I am on the socials. Everything is at Nicole Proof. I joke that it's kind of like cask strength, but a little more ladylike. And yeah, and I'm on the LinkedIn's on Nicole Rogers. So it's all the same. You can find me.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I'm so excited to have this out in the world.
Oh, this is great.
Grateful to have you.
All right, on to the next one.
Okay. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Somo Cowork Member Spotlight. We hope you enjoyed getting to know Nicole and the inspiring work she's doing. Stay tuned for more conversations with incredible members of our community. See you next time.